Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. It's funny that some people consider e-commerce to just be selling physical products, and the kind of physical products that are really easy to ship. But what if the product that you're selling is bigger than that and it comes with a service? Well, this is one of my favorite ways to actually make money from what it is you sell, using the knowledge and kind of adding a service-based aspect to your business. So I wanted to bring on one of my mastermind friends who is brilliant when it comes to marketing and strategy, because she has a tactic, and we've been talking about this a lot. We talked about selling to rich people. We talked about finding out who our customers want over the past few weeks, but she came into a niche and decided right from the beginning she was going to be the premium brand. Welcome to the show, Kat.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay, what is this mystery business that I'm talking about?
Well, I run a 7-figure photo booth business.
And it's interesting because when I first heard this, in my head, maybe this is just showing my age, but I was thinking of the photo booths that are kind of like, you know, they have the curtains down the side and you cram in with your friends and the little ticket spits out, but that's not the kind of photo booth that you've got.
No, so we have what would be considered an open air photo booth. But I will say those enclosed photo booths are making a huge comeback right now. But that's a story for another day because they are a pain in the
I was going to say far less transportable.
Oh yeah, no, the photo booths I have now can fit in the back of a sedan. They are extremely portable. They're meant for people who want to do, a side business. And for some of us, that turns into a full-blown business. But that's how I got into it. To begin with, I wanted something that I could supplement my corporate job with. I did eventually want to step away from it because I worked in insurance for 14 years before this. And I will say I love my job in insurance because I had an interesting job in insurance. I wasn't selling insurance. I was doing marketing and business development towards the end of it, but it was still insurance at the end of the day.
There's only so many exciting things about insurance.
Yeah, people don't really get excited when, they're like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I work for this huge brokerage. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. The conversation kind of stops there unless
I feel like that's when they move to the next person to see, because no one knows what to talk about when it comes to insurance.
No, they think that I'm the one denying the claims. And I'm like, no, I don't do any of that. Promise you. But I was doing that for a long time, but I'm a creative. And I always said, I don't want to, rot away in a corporate cubicle. It's not for me. There are people who are built for that. And we need those people. That is not me. I am not that people. And so I, did what I had to do. But on the side, I kept doing all these creative things. And one of them was photography. I've loved photography since I can remember. I tried being a wedding photographer. I don't like spending 10 hours at weddings and then editing and dealing with all the drunk guests and stuff like that. And
it's a lot of hard work, wedding photography.
It's so much. People think
that's not a side hustle job. The amount of prep you have to put in and like you said, time on the ground and the post and the customer expectations, that's a full-time job.
And there's so much pressure, like so much pressure as a wedding photographer to make sure that you capture all these moments. And again, people that are cut out for that. I really love the photography aspect of it, the creative side of it, but the pressure that came with it was not for me. And I actually went to Vegas. And at this point, broke. Yes, I worked a full-time job, but still broke. You live paycheck to paycheck, but your bills are not paycheck to paycheck. Your bills come up, all the time and you don't end up having money. And anyways, I wanted to go to this convention in Vegas because I was like, I need to learn how to do this because people are doing this and I'm clearly missing something. So I need inspiration.
So when you say doing this, let me just jump in. Do you mean the photography, wedding photography, or by then you had already worked out that the photo booth was an option?
So at this point, I hate photo booths. At this point, you wouldn't catch me dead in a photo booth.
Because they're stealing your business.
Well, no, I just thought that photo booths were super tacky. And every photo booth I had ever experienced was like a webcam with a really terrible output. It's like this big bulky thing with cables everywhere. And like the strip print has really bad design. And it's just not cute. It's not something I would want to keep. And on top of that, I don't know where those props have been. I am not wearing your Dollar Tree hat that you've probably never cleaned. So no, I had no interest in photo booths whatsoever. it wasn't even on my radar. But I did go here to understand, like, how do people make it in a creative business in photography? I thought maybe I needed to pivot to something else. I needed to go learn from the people who were really making it in the wedding photography industry or in the photography industry. So I went to WPPI, which is like the trade show for photographers, for education and all that. And I think the year I went was the last really good year, but it was a memorable time for sure. So two of my friends, the three of us, we split a room at the Excalibur, which I don't know if you've ever been there, but it smells like Axe body spray and it is not cute. So it was $60 a night. So you can just imagine, what was going on there. But we got free passes to the trade show. And I knew that some of the really famous, amazing photographers that I had been following were talking on the floor. And so I went for free because I couldn't buy the actual pass. And I ran into a photo booth that I was like, this is a studio. This is a portable studio. This is very different. And something just I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I had like the flyer. I'm walking around. I'm calling my husband. I'm like, I know we have no money. And this thing is $9,000 US. I'm in Canada. So that's like $13,000, $14,000 back then. I'm like, but I can't, like, this feels like my next thing. Like, I, started ranting to my husband and he's like, well, you got to figure out how to do it. Well, the only option I had was my emergency credit card that my parents had given me. And keep in mind, I'm like in my late 20s at this point. Wait, no, I'm like in my 30s. I'm in my 30s at this point. No business having a parental emergency credit card. So anyways, I bought it on my parents' emergency card and I was like, I have 30 days to figure this out, but I can do it. My mom called like, what is this charge? I guess if she had signed up for
Someone
email.
has stolen your credit card.
She got notified. I was like, damn it, I didn't know she was this high tech at this point. But I just, like I said, it clicked with me. I understood that this photo booth, which was beautiful, it was like just stunning to look at. And the picture quality was incredible and it printed instantly. And even the images that came out, I was just like, this is one of the best photos I've ever seen. And we're at a time where like we're transitioning from, no one prints their photos anymore. Everything is digital. Nobody even understands how to print a photo other than going to like, Walmart or something and printing them there. And because I was in that industry and because I hated photo booths, I just saw such an opportunity for someone like me who would want this kind of photo booth, right? And while maybe I couldn't afford myself back then, I knew that there was people who could afford to pay for what I was about to give them because it required me buying premium backdrops, right? Like a lot of people would just use these see-through sequin things. And I went and bought like the most beautiful sequin backdrops because that was cool back then that you've ever seen.
Is that mum and dad's credit card going on overdrive?
Yeah, no, at this point I've I booked a couple of events and I'm investing back into my company. So at first, I definitely was using like IKEA curtains or whatever I could to make it look good, or I would use the venue backdrop. And I did my research and I knew the industry because I was kind of in it, right? But I realized that every single photo booth in the city was doing the exact same thing. They all looked the same. I couldn't tell one from the other and their pricing was all kind of the same. And I'm like, I'm going to be different. So I went and was very different. We had really great branding. We knew who our target client was. I knew that I did not want to go after 5-year-old's birthday party. That was probably not going to be my client in my city. And it worked. Like, because we were so different than what was out there, people saw the value in what we were doing. We had no problem booking anything. We made 6 figures in our first year and a half of owning this side hustle, right? And so at this point, like after about a year and a half, my husband's working events on the weekend. I'm working events on the weekend. Like we don't have enough manpower to do the events that we need to do. So I'm starting to have to hire people and buy more photo booths. And I'm like, oh, okay, this works.
This is a thing.
It's a thing, but even to this day, I meet people and they're like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, photo booths. Then I go, oh, it's cute. Yeah, that's not cute.
How long did it take you from in Vegas? Did you take it home with you or did they ship it? Like, did you schlep this thing home?
Yeah. So back then it took about 6 weeks for them to build the photo because they were handmade essentially at that point. like back then, the company that I bought it from, I think they had just been in business for 1 year.
Whoa.
They've now been in business for many years. But it was the infancy of the photo booth manufacturer as well. So yeah, they hand built them and then they shipped it to me in Canada. So I had 6 weeks to build a business.
I was going to say, you had 6 weeks to basically build the business and go out there and get some cash.
Yeah.
So you said that you saw that everybody else was doing the same thing. Can you just take us back to, you've got 6 weeks. Are you doing this research? Because I thought that you did the research before you did the photo booth. Oh, no. You bought the photo booth and then did the research. Love it.
Yeah, okay. I don't recommend that. I have a good gut feeling.
But when you were doing the research as to what to put out there, was it in that 6-week gap? Or did you just kind of, like you said, you started out with the IKEA curtains and whatnot. Did you just go out there, test the market, and then realize that you were a bit the same as everybody else?
So because I've been in the industry, I had seen some insight already, right? Like it's not like I was completely new to the event industry and to the wedding industry. I understood inner workings of it to some degree, but I also understood that I'd never seen a photo booth in the events that I had gone to, right? But I had obviously been exposed to photo booths before. So no, I didn't do the research, but I think I had enough information to make a good decision. And then when I got home, that's when I really I sat down and compared every single company I could find within an hour and a half drive of our city. Cause like we're not too close to any other bigger cities. There's like Montreal, which is like 2 hours away, and Toronto, which is like 4 hours away. And everything in between doesn't really count, like for big city stuff. I just compared everything. And like I said, I was just trying to find like, how do I differentiate myself? Because I knew that that's what I needed to do. And I knew that the equipment alone was going to help me be different, but I still needed to do more, right? Because I wasn't trying to just be like $100 more. I was double what everyone else was charging.
Wow.
So yeah, so most photo booth companies, mind you, this was like 11 years ago, were charging about $400 or $500 for a 3-hour event. And we came in at $975 for 3 hours. And if you translate that to inflation now, that's about $1,500 for 3 hours. Like I could barely charge $2,000 as a wedding photographer because I wasn't good at marketing myself as a wedding photographer. But as a photo booth owner, I can do that.
It's funny. Do you think that is, if we could just sidetrack here, do you think the reason that you can market the photo booth better than you can market yourself is because the photo booth is a tangible object, not an intrinsic you thing?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be it. There's so many more selling features to a photo booth as a thing, like you said, like a tangible thing than there is me, you know?
Oh,
and
I challenge that, I just have to say.
well, I mean, in the sense of like, you know, it becomes personal when you're an artist, right? And I think that is harder to do, to sell your art, right? And to sell yourself as that artist, to me, was harder to do. I can sell myself as a photo booth artist all day long. Because believe it or not, there is artistry to doing this and to creating experience. Because at this point, like we're not just doing styled photo booths anymore. Like that's how I started, right? Doing these really highly stylized photo booths that blended in with the wedding rather than being an afterthought. And that's what started my career. Now we build experiences, right? And we mostly focus on really larger corporate style events. I still do a lot of luxury weddings but even still with that, it's about the experience rather than this is a photo booth. So to me, my marketing brain could wrap my head around a product versus a person.
Yeah.
And it's just easier. Yeah.
So you've gone out, you've done the research, you've decided to be double the price of everybody else. How did you sell that?
Well, again, I saw the differences in the websites. Again, the websites were very similar. They all sold the photo booth. It's like, you get prints, you get this thing. And it's like, it didn't sell like the experience of what they were getting, right? They weren't selling like, so for example, a photographer is there for the couple, right? Their focus for the whole day of a wedding is the couple. What about the guests? What about the people who haven't seen each other since high school? What about the cousins that you haven't seen in 20 years because they live across the world and this was the one time that they could come? What about the grandparents that maybe won't be here next year, right? Those pictures, sure, the photographer might get them every now and again, but trust me, those are the pictures that end up in the photo booth, right? And so one of the other things that I was really focused on was I didn't want to take away from the picture by throwing a bunch of tacky props in there and hats and stuff. And sure, people want to dress up. That's not the company we wanted to be. If that was what you wanted, great. There's other companies that can do that.
And they're half the price.
They're half the price and you get all these props too. But I really wanted to create something that was, again, stylized. So the props that we had were tasteful signs to start off with. We don't do props at all anymore because I really want this to be more of like a really genuine portrait session, right? Where it's like this is something that you will frame. This is something you will put on your fridge, that kind of thing. But so the props that we had, again, like they were handmade, paper and all this other stuff, which was cool back then. And people loved it. Like they raved about it. We didn't even have to ask people for reviews. Planners were going crazy for it because it was different and it, really just was it was just something different and of high quality, which they hadn't really seen, right? And I think that really that was what sold it. And all I had to do, I did one free event. One free event to the right people is what catalyzed everything. Because I understood who I was going after, right? And I said, I need to get in front of these people. So I sponsored this event, which is called Ladies Who Lunch. There's more than just ladies. Very inviting group. And in there was a bunch of planners and they saw it, like what I was doing. And from there, it's history. I still work with these people 10 years later, right? And it was from that one first encounter. And from there, it was like one review, one person tells another person. I think when you really understand your target market and you get in front of them and you show them what you can do, the word of mouth will take you very far. Eventually, you'll have to do more, but the word of mouth will get you very far.
So let's go on to that. Let's talk about, this sounds fantastic. It's like, I'm going to open a business and I'm going to be one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, and people will come flocking because I had a beautiful website. And I got in front of the right customer once. If only business was that easy.
They don't see the 10 failed businesses I had before that.
Exactly. So I guess what are the pitfalls that you find? And I know we were talking just before we came on. What are some of the pitfalls that you find being the most expensive?
There's a few for sure. One, the education that comes with it. You're always going to get like these like edge people, right? The people who are just on the outside of your target audience that almost value you, but they can't quite wrap their head around why you are so much more. They understand it, but they can't grasp it.
The aspirational people.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great word for them. And they're the ones that they require education, and I think you can take it personal that they don't see it, or you can look at your website, your marketing, all that, and go, how am I not communicating this properly? How am I not weeding these people out to say, you are not my client, right? And so really, it was just refining that, a lot of refinement. It's a lot of refinement. Every 6 months, I would say, 6 months to a year, we refine. So education and having to educate people on that was definitely big one. The refinement that you're constantly having to do to stay in that luxury higher end realm is also like, you need to be on the ball, right? People change, situations change, aesthetics change as well. So you really have to be a forward thinker, which can be exhausting sometimes,
And I'm guessing you kind of mentioned this right at the beginning about being a wedding photographer is you have so many expectations to manage. And, the expectation from the customer sits proportionally with how much you charge. And so I'm guessing this is very similar with the business that you've got now, is those customers that because you are a premium brand, they're paying for that. And they're also, I don't know, are they expecting, in my head, the more I pay for something, the more I expect I will have to do less.
Yes, 100% I will have to do less. They don't, it's not even so much the product itself, but it's, again, the experience of, as someone with money, I am giving you money to buy back my time. That is the only thing that people care about, right? Even the planners, because these planners that get hired by these high-end weddings, they're getting hired obviously by that client because that client doesn't have time to plan their own wedding. But these planners don't want to deal with vendors that they have to hold hands, right? They don't want to be like, are you showing up today? Where are you? Why does your cable not have tape over it? Like, why are you a tripping hazard? So part of our service is always being a couple of steps ahead. Like we know we're going to come set up early because we don't want to be setting up during your dinner, right? And a lot of photo booths will just show up an hour before they're supposed to go live, and they don't care if they're assembling their photo booth during your speeches because you didn't pay for them to come earlier. Ours are included, right? We know every venue. We don't ask for, information about how to load in, load out, because we'll call the venue. We'll figure that out. Like we do all of that extra stuff. And I personally have fairly high standards of my expectations. So I'm like, how would I make myself happy? And that's usually how I end up trying to figure that one out. But yeah, the expectations are definitely higher, and you have to live up to them. Otherwise, you will get demolished in reviews.
Can I go somewhere different here? One of the things that I spoke about on a podcast just recently is when we were at the mastermind. I don't know if I told you this story, but when we were at the mastermind, I stayed for a couple of days by the pool, debrief my own head. And there was a couple beside me, two couples actually, a little bit older than me, but the gentleman there had finished with whatever it was they were eating, and the trash can was literally across the footpath, maybe 3 feet away. And as somebody walked past, like one of the staff walked past, he handed the trash to the staff member and said, "Can you put this in the trash can for me?" Which of course they did. And then he handed him some money. It's steps. It was steps away. Like, I don't know, maybe he could have even extended his arm, but he's bought back time. And that honestly changed so much about the way I think about selling to rich people. And so my question to you is, knowing that you wanted a premium brand and knowing that when you did this, you were pretty much broke, how difficult was it to get into the headspace of what these customers want when you aren't that customer?
That's such a great question. So I had grown up around a lot of wealth, not personally in my family, but my mother worked for an embassy. And so we were surrounded by diplomats and they have money. And so I understood that. I did have, also some relatives that, one in particular, she was quite wealthy. Her and her husband actually owned I don't even actually know what it was. I was so young, and to this day, I don't really know what they own, but essentially a catering company in South America. And I just remember she would have 3 phones going at any given time. She's driving and she's talking on 3 phones and doing all this stuff. And somehow she always found time to take us shopping and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, how do they live like this? So I'd been exposed to that stuff, even though that wasn't me. I understood it. And I did a lot of the research too, is that I would go to these weddings, right? As a wedding photographer, as a vendor, I would go to all these weddings. I would understand what the pain points were of the planners. And I would understand what the pain points were of the couples that they were hiring. One of the things that I think inherently, I guess I was good at from my experience of working in the corporate world and all of that was really breaking down the understanding my target audience or my persona so that I could market to them. So even though I didn't live in that luxury realm and, didn't really fully understand them, you can research anything, right? You can expose yourself to anything. And part of this is just being in the right room. Right? You can pay to be in any room.
Yeah.
Or you can just be in that room one way or another. Whether you are going to an event, you can be a server in that room. You have, and get exposed to these people. So there's ways, but researching and understanding your target audience is super important. But the number one thing that they want is their time. They can't buy that.
Yep. Time, and I guess that in my head, it's the convenience is huge. And I grew up very, very poor. And so even now, I have to check myself when I go to DoorDash something because I'm like, but it's $10. And I'm like, yeah, but how much work can you get done in the time it would take to go to the store to buy the batteries for the camera that are flat? Like you could, in that time, you could have made way more money. And I'm always justifying these things in my head. And so one of the things I was going to ask you was, because you do now sell photo booths to other people and you now also sell what is in your brain and all of that experience to help photo booth owners. Do you find that it is difficult for those people to build the premium brand when they can't see their own value? Like it's that DoorDash moment again. It's like, why would I pay for it if I could do it myself? Why would someone pay for this when they could pay for it for half the price? And so is that something that you find, and how do you help them combat that?
So again, being exposed and just having your mind opened to those possibilities. There are so many people that I have talked to and they're like, oh, I'm the most expensive photo booth company in my area. I only target luxury clients. And then I dig deeper and I go, okay, tell me about these luxury clients. They're like, oh, we only do weddings that are $30,000 or more. I'm like, I didn't even know you could have a wedding for $30,000 nowadays. You know, like that to them is like, that's a lot of money, right? So part of what I do in my teaching, honestly, I have a pricing course where the whole first 3/4 is me showing them that there are people out there who will pay $10,000 for 3 hours of a photo booth. And it's not like I'm just pulling this number out of thin air, right? Like there's value that goes. There's a difference in a $10,000 photo booth versus a $3,000 photo booth. But they have no idea. And I think one of the ones for that, like the big catalyst moment for me, was thinking back to my insurance days. I used to handle an insurance portfolio when I was in corporate insurance. They paid $3 million a year for their insurance premiums. And I'm like, excuse me? That's how much you pay for your insurance premiums. Not to mention, yeah. I mean, their revenues were in the billions, right? And
Gosh.
right? Some people just aren't exposed to that. But once you start to show them that this is possible and that these people exist, I think that is the first step of being able to understand that there are people out there that will pay that, right? And bringing it in as well. Everyone has something that they won't think twice about paying for, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you make or have or don't have. There's something that you value so much that you will work extra hours to do. So if you could ever make that correlation with them about it, then right there, you won't see the light bulb go on in their eyes where they're like, oh, okay, I don't need to be a millionaire to serve millionaires, right?
So there's this great Alex Hormozi quote. Let me try and get it right off the top of my head, but it says, like, cater to rich people and you'll be able to charge rich people prices. And when you serve rich people and charge rich people prices, they will make you one of them. So I've butchered that to pieces, but essentially the concept is when you sell to this kind of market, to the premium market where the money is not the issue, the money is not the currency. The currency that you're selling to is the convenience, the experience, or the status of, I had this photo booth and it was amazing, and so other people can talk about it, and rich people like having other people talk about how fantastic they are, and so that to them is more value, because you get to a certain point where money has no value to you. When you have so much of it,
yeah,
it doesn't like
matter.
It's whether it's $10,000 or $10 million, it's whatever. It's just, what am I getting from it? And I think that you did that so well, like understanding the customer expectation, understanding that what they want has to be voiced. It's not features. It's not, oh, you're going to get 27 prints or 47 different backdrops. It is something that money almost can't buy, which is that experience, which is the taking this away from you having to think about these things. And I feel like a lot of business owners forget that is worth so much more to their clients. And I always come back to, I interviewed a guy called Dean Salakis. They run a business called The Party People. They just sell generic party supplies, paper plates, hats, all the things, but they charge double for the exact same product, same brand, same product, because what they do well is they have the entire range. If you want Dora the Explorer, they've got all the things. If you want Frozen, they have all the things. And so you don't have to go to here and then you go to Walmart and then you go to Target and then you're ordering things online. Everything comes shipped and it arrives. And he said, I can afford to do that because the people who buy from us don't want to have to search the web and go to 5 different stores to get their party. They just want it delivered knowing that it's all going to arrive together.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I remember reading that Bill Gates was so rich that it would cost him money to pick up $100 bill if he dropped it on the floor.
Yeah.
And I was just like, huh.
Well, maybe that was the guy sitting next to me at the hotel.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know. Everyone at that hotel was absolutely will spend money to buy back their time because wow, I've never seen wealth like that before. But see, that was a new experience for me to see a car drive up like any other day that cost the same as my house. You know, like that was new.
I don't know cars, and I remember sending my husband a picture and he said to me, there's like $7 million worth of cars in that picture. And there were about 4 cars in that picture. And I was just taking a picture because it was like hot purple. And I was like, hey, look at this cool car. And he went to me, that's about a $2 million car. And I was like, huh. And coming back to the things that you value, I think that's such a crucial point because I could have all the money in the world. I'm not a car head. Like, I don't know that I would spend $2 million on a car. Like, it's not something I value. I do value the experiences. I value friends. I value food. I like really nice hotels. I'm a bit of a hotel snob. But when it comes to cars, and like I keep saying to my husband, I probably should buy a new car. And he's like, you drive it once every 2 weeks. Why do you need a new car? And I'm like, yeah. And what would I buy? It's a thing that gets me from A to B when I can't walk.
Yep. And some people spend millions on cars.
Yes, as we well know. Okay, let's quickly wrap this around to what are the benefits? Like we've talked about obviously money is one of them, but when it comes to pitfalls of having to manage expectations, some people don't want to do the work. Like they don't want to manage their customers' expectations. They just want to, put a product up for sale, pack it, ship it, it's done. Or not even do that, put that in 3PL. What are some of the benefits of being the premium brand?
Well, I work a lot less to make the same amount of money as so for me, I can do 1 event and make the same profit as somebody who had to do 10 events, right? Wow. So right there, it's like, if I only want to work, let's just say going back to when I started and it was just me working on weekends, I'm charging $1,000 an event. I'm doing 4 events. I'm making $4,000 in revenue. And back then, my profit margins were like 80% because I ran this out of my house. My expenses were like a website and some gas and my time at that point, right? So I would be making $3,000. My math's not great, so don't come at me. But
we don't do air math here.
Should have done 10,000. That would have been easier. Anyways. So I'm keeping a lot more of that money, whereas somebody who's charging less has to do twice the number of events, but each one of those events still costs them the same amount of money. It's still, the gas doesn't change. The website costs don't change. Maybe they're slightly...
Well, the gas costs are going to change because they have to do twice as many events. So the gas costs are actually twice as much.
Absolutely. I meant per event though, like you're still going to have to pay, to drive there, your time. And certain things are never going to are going to be the same each event, but now you're having to do it more and you're bringing home less and you're working more, right? So you're way more tired than I am and you don't have time to market at that point. I do my 4 breezy events. I have time to market on the side. I have time to respond to emails because I'm not working 10 events a month.
Yeah, you're not burnt out.
No,
okay,
exactly.
So if we sell to richer people, if we get the better client, we make more money, we don't have to work as hard, even though I feel like the work is very different. And you just touched on it then. The work for the hustler is the grind. It's the getting out, the doing the things. The work that you do as a premium brand is less about grinding and more about what are the expectations? What do we need to change in the business to meet our customers? What are the trends? What do we need to adjust? What wording do we have to do? So not that it's less work, but it is less work, but it's very different as well. It's less physical work rather than the having to go out and do it all the time.
Yeah. And the other thing too with cheaper clients that I find is that because they are hyper focused on every dollar that they spend, a photo booth is not a need to have, right? And so a lot of times it's a stretch for them to do this thing at their event or their wedding. So they expect so much more. And I find that there's so much more back and forth. They're very controlling of what the outcome is. Maybe they've been burned in the past, right? And that's fair. But there's more expectations of keeping them in the loop than with somebody who is coming to you and seeing you as the professional and just expecting you to do your job.
Interesting, isn't it? I heard don't own a Rolex. Actually, my husband does own a Rolex. Doesn't wear a watch though. It was a gift. I heard that in the Rolex store, you get a notification to say that your Rolex is due for its clean service, whatnot. And you log in, you click a button to say what time you want to come. And before you come, the person knows when you're coming. They have an iPad that has all of your past history on it, right down to things like, do you like coffee? Would you prefer champagne? Whether you're going to wait or not. And the whole experience is tailored so that from the minute that someone walks in, the customer feels valued and they feel like not just another number. The benefits of this is that the system that they use says, Kat loves gold watches with diamonds, and we've just released this gold watch with diamonds. So when Kat comes in, you should show her this particular watch because based on her buying behavior, this is something that she would like. I feel like having the customer analytics and having customers who are so open and receptive, if Rolex can do it, they know they can do it.
Yeah.
Having customers so receptive to, I didn't even know I needed that thing, but now that you've shown it, yeah, I'll take it. And we're talking 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, $200,000. And it comes back to the value that customers place on the thing that you're providing. And that thing does not have to be the tangible thing. It doesn't matter what you're selling.
Yeah.
We've got better customers when we charge more. We can work less. I feel like one of the things we haven't touched on is when you charge more, and you did kind of touch on there that you can do the marketing, but when you charge more money, it means you have the time and the budget to be able to up-level the customer experience or the product range or whatever it is that your customer is searching for. Because you have the mental space, you have the cash flow to be able to do that research. And so one of the things I think we forget is we try to be affordable so that we can sell to everyone. But the downside of that is our competitors who are charging a little bit more can actually go so much faster because they have the cash and the mental bandwidth that you just talked about to be able to focus on growing the business, not just working in the business.
Yeah. And building a team, scaling it, right? Like I have a team now that works for me that does a much better job than I ever did in a lot of things. And they, it's just, we continue to grow. And I'd never be able to do that if I was trying to be the cheapest. We are constantly raising our prices. Like our average wedding photo booth now is $2,500 for 3 hours, which is very different than the $975 we started off with. But I can do that and I can scale my business. I don't do events myself anymore. Like I think maybe 3 or 4 a year because I want to. But it's because I was able to scale and delegate and really focus on being able to create what I had always envisioned for myself was infinite possibilities, right? I didn't like being like, oh, I have to wait a year to get a promotion. Like I wanted to have that freedom to make as much as I wanted or to live wherever I want or to travel. I love traveling like you. And so I needed to be able to work from anywhere. I love working from a plane. It's one of my favorite places to work from, right?
Can I just jump in and say, as I'm about to step on a plane after this call, people hate flying. Oh my God. I'm like, when I come to America, I'm like 15 hours where someone brings me food. I do not have to make any decisions. I can tune out. I can work. No one's going to bother me. Like this is heaven.
It's amazing. I agree with you 100%. You have, and the Wi-Fi nowadays is almost better than on the ground. I don't understand how they do it.
Yeah, it's all those people as a business class, but yeah, all those people who complain about, 15 hours on a plane. I'm like, do you know how much work I can get done on a plane?
Exactly. And yeah, you get fed and there's movies and all this other stuff. And definitely, the points help. When you have a business and you have a business credit card with all the points, then you get to fly business class without having to pay for business class. So
That's a whole nother story on points hacking, and I'm with you on the points hacking. Okay, can we just finalize with, and I think this is really important because we keep coming back to this, knowing what your customers want, understanding their expectations, but you've now taken it a step further. So you have the experience, you have the business knowledge, you have all of the acumen and the business resources that you've now turned that into a revenue stream for your business, which I think is brilliant. And I think way too many retail and e-commerce businesses never think about that because they think I'm selling a product. But as you've just said, no, what you're selling is your brand and you're selling what your customers want. So how have you leveraged everything that you've built to become an authority in your business that can then sell what's in your brain?
Well, so I've done that kind of in two ways. So I have the course, right? I genuinely love this industry. Like, if you would have told me that I would be obsessed with photo booths and that was going to be my career, I'd be like, okay. Like, no one wakes up in the morning and they're like, I'm going to be in the photo booth industry. Like, it's like insurance. You don't wake up and say, I'm going to be in insurance. And I find that, the industry itself, it has so much potential, and being able to see people have that moment, like that switch in their brain when they're like, oh, I can do this. I can make this business work for me. I can have the freedom that I want. That to me, just, it excites me, right? I love being able to teach people how to do certain things that they didn't think were possible. And, it took me years and years of doing it for free to really be like, oh, maybe I should do a premium version of this, right? And I still do it for free. Like, you can ask me anything on Instagram, and if I have the time, I will answer it. But now I try to break it down and have it be so that all the things I wanted when I was, building my business and trying to figure this stuff out, I didn't have YouTube videos. I had to look at photographers to understand this and piece it together from something else. And so I'm like, I can make that. I saw a need to fast track people, and I knew that they would pay to be fast tracked because then they could make more money. And to me, it was so like, I just need to do this, right? Because if it was me in these shoes, I would pay the $200 or whatever for this course so that I could then make thousands more selling this and being that different person. So I love seeing the growth of these people when they go through the course. And so on that side, there's the authority in the education place, which I will say too, like the stakes are high when you do education, especially nowadays. Like, the trust in coaches and all that is like rock bottom because there's just so many out there. So you almost have to deliver so much higher than people's expectations, right? To stay on top, which is hard and exhausting, but also really fun. But then on the flip,
I was going to say, and we're constantly learning and adjusting, and
yes, things change.
Things change.
Yeah, everything. Like, hello, could we have just 1 year that is similar to the year before in this decade? That would be really nice. If I could go back to look at my last year's data to understand what's going to be happening, would be so wonderful. But I haven't been able to do that since 2020. So that, yeah, the authority side of things is great because then again, we have the other revenue stream. But one that I haven't even talked to yet is that now our business is corporate. It's all corporate, and it's different, right? Because corporations have money, but you're no longer trying to buy back their time. You're trying to give them a return on investment at this point. They want to get something out of the money that they're investing in you. Very different frame there. And right now, my mission, I guess right now, is to educate the corporate world on just how amazing photo booths are for marketing and for engagement and brand authority and all that, because it is a marketing tool. It's an incredible marketing tool, just as much as it is a memory maker for, for weddings. And it's just such a versatile tool.
I don't want to dig into this too much, but my brain, the first thing I say, my brain, the first place that it goes is, it's not even to the corporate companies that you have to speak to. It's the door bitch. It's the gatekeeper. It's the person. Yeah. It's the person who has to put the report up to the boss that this thing is the thing that we should buy. And so whilst the corporate, you have to understand the corporate understanding, it's almost like the languaging needs to speak to the events coordinator.
Yeah.
Which is really difficult because now you've kind of got two customers.
Yep. You really do. It's a different world completely.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up there because you and I could talk forever. If people are thinking, you know what, photo booth sounds like a great idea. We have an event coming up. Where can they find you?
Well, my photo booth company, which does service Canada, the US, and Australia, London and Paris too, is Modern Activations. If it's for a corporate event, if you're looking for a wedding, it's Modern Photo Booth. And if you're looking to learn about photo booths, then Photo Booth Mastery is my Instagram handle for the courses and how to build your empire with photo booths.
I think you and I could talk forever. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I hope that when people are listening, they maybe just have had that little tweak in their brain that's like, maybe we could sell to better customers and as a result, end up with a much better business.
You definitely can. Thank you so much for having me.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelena and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.